Hi coders, I'm Matt Landers with Covalence. In this video we're going to talk about how to use TypeScript and React together. So let's go into a project that I have set up. It's from the starter template, the bare bones React TypeScript Express project that we have, and I'll link that in the video notes. And I've added a little bit more to it so that it pulls back some blog posts on my main page of my React, and then I want to be able to click a blog post and see the full blog detail. So let's take a look at what we have so far. All right, so we have this blog list that comes back. It's talking to a MySQL database, and it's just a really simple React app. And we're going to focus on the client side of this. There's already an API ready for me to use. All right, so let's look at what we have. The first thing to notice is that whenever we create our component, we have this generic type that we can provide. And if we hover over component, we'll see that it has two types, P and S. The P stands for properties, so it's our props that we pass in to the component. And then the S stands for state, which is the state of the component. Now I've defined these down here, and they don't have anything on them. But I always define them just in case I'm going to add something to them. We don't have any on these, so let's look at the blog list. Right now I just have a router in here with one path, so there's no routing happening, which is what we're going to do in just a minute. All right, so in the blog list, this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. So we have a state here. We have our blogs that we're going to pull from our API. It's an array of this type. It has an ID that's a number, a title that's a string, and a body that's a string. Now, we'll notice that we get this IntelliSense here. So if we type this.state.blogs, or this.state, we see blogs there, right? And then in here, when we're mapping, we can see ID, body, and title. So TypeScript is giving us this IntelliSense and this typings here so that we know what's available to us. Then we define that. And the way that properties work, so if we look right now, if we just come in here and say this.props, I will say we have children on there, but children is always there. So what if we wanted to add something else? I can add like a name. Then I say this.props dot, and you'll see that our name shows up. So that's what these generics are for on the component. It's defining what are your properties and what is on your state. And then TypeScript can help us make sure that we're adhering to that definition while we're coding our component. So if we mistype something or anything, it knows that we're wrong and we'll catch those errors before we actually go live and try to run it. So I'm going to take this off here, and we're going to create a new component called single.tsx, and this is just going to show us the blog post. Right now we just have the list of blogs, but we want to see when we click one, we want to see the actual blog itself. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to import React from React. We're also going to import something from the React router, and we'll talk about what that is here in a minute. Call it route component props, that's what it is. And we'll call this single, and it extends react.component. And we need to create two interfaces for that. So let's create our interface for our props. So I usually name it whatever the component is, I single props. The I is for interface. We don't have any props directly on there, but we're going to look at how this can work with the router. Go ahead and get our state. On our state, we're just going to have the blog, and it's going to be the ID number, title string, and body string. All right, let's go ahead and hook these in. Say I props, I single state. All right, so we're going to want to render this out. It's going to be pretty basic. We'll just return article, and we'll just put our blog in here. So this.state.blog.body. We can also add a header, I suppose. And we'll say this dot state dot blog dot title. And we'll put this in a paragraph. All right. We also need to create our constructor. So let's go ahead and do that. And when we put our props here, we need to also tell it what the type is. And call super. All right. The other thing that we need to do is call our API to go get this single blog post. I'll do that in component will mount. We'll make this async. And let's copy what we have over in our blog list, and we'll just change that up a little bit. Our blog list has a link. Let's look. If you look here, the link at the bottom of the browser there, it might be hard to see, but it has a /1 on it, /2, /3, and those are the IDs of the blog. So when we click on that, we're going to be passing in a parameter through our route params of the ID that we want to match here. So the way that this is going to work is we need to extend our properties here with our route component props. So this comes from the React router, and it has its own generic type that we can put on here too. I would like to be able to put ID number, but we can't do that. It only accepts strings, so we just have to change this to a string. And now what we're going to notice is whenever we come in here to make our API call, which is going to have this parameter on it, we're going to do $. Then we say this dot props dot, and when we do that, because we extended this route component props here, we can see all of these other things that come from React Router on here already. Well, we know that our params come through on match and then params and dot, and you'll see that ID is there for us. So that's what this is defining for us, is what's going to be passed in the params on the route itself, and there we have it. So this is going to make a call to the blog and show it. So let's save this and go over to our app and add another route here. We also need to put :ID here, and then we're going to put that single component. All right, I've saved that. I'm going to go back over and refresh. When I click, make sure this is, oh, we got a little error here. Cannot read property blog of null. On our single, we did not instantiate our blog, so we need to have blog. And there's nothing on the blog at first, so we need to actually make these optional, because we don't, when we very first time we come in, we don't really have anything on there, and we potentially don't have it if they put in a wrong ID as well. So that should fix that. And there we go. So I can go back and choose any of these, and we end up in our blog. So that's how we use TypeScript with React and React Router. Let's walk through everything that we did just so that we can get an idea and really understand what's happening. React.component has two generic types that you pass in. You pass in your props and your state, and you've got to define those for every component that you have. If it's a component that's being routed to, where you want to get params off of it or whatnot, the history object and all that, then you need to extend your props with the route component props that comes with the React Router DOM. And those need to be installed under the typing, so just like any other typings. And then you tell it what parameters are going to be coming in. Same way that we are doing our state, where we're saying what's on our state and then what is the type of the objects on the state. And when we do that, we get that IntelliSense in here. So if I say dot, I can tell what might be on this object. Otherwise, if we were in JavaScript or if we were using any types, that's why you want to avoid any types. So I could have come here and just said any, and this would have made a lot of those errors in TypeScript go away, but it's not really giving us the functionality that we're looking for. You really want to make sure that you're defining your types right so that you get the IntelliSense and you get the design time checking that makes your code more likely to succeed when it runs. So if you have types in there, and then you don't have to worry about misspelling something or putting a property on that is not actually there. It's making sure that when you're using your state, when you're using your props, when you're using the route component props, that those objects actually exist and you don't have to figure that out at runtime. We know for sure at design time that this is good and it's going to work. And that's really the purpose of TypeScript. And we get that really great IntelliSense. So imagine having a big team and you all were using TypeScript. It'd be really easy to use each other's components because all of this IntelliSense is on those components at that point. All right, so that's it for this video. Go ahead and start playing with this. If you have questions, please leave them on the video itself in Gravity so that I can answer them and I can potentially create other videos to really help you with using TypeScript with React. I think at first it might be a little bit frustrating, but it will get a lot easier as you use it more and more. It just becomes second nature. And it'll also save you a lot of time and effort once you do that, because having the types really help you out as you're coding. So go out there and use it, and happy coding.